Hello friends, it is time for another Q&A video. As you can see, I've got the camera facing around this way instead of at my desk. And I don't know what to do with my hands, just like last time. I don't know what to do. So anyway, if you see me like shifting around in my chair, wow, the camera's been facing this direction for just a couple of minutes, and like the last video, it's already gotten really fucking weird. So the way this works, these Q&A videos, my beautiful, lovely, awesome Patreon supporters ask me questions, and then I answer them as off the cuff as possible. I haven't spent time thinking about these. I of course see them when I write them down in a document here on my handy teleprompter. But I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about these. It's pretty off the cuff to make it as interesting as it can possibly be when you're watching some guy fucking yak for half an hour. So let's dive right in. Do you have any gun shop or gun range horror stories? Yeah, I think we all do, right? It's just kind of part of it. You see weird people doing weird stuff, and then you either help them stop or doing whatever it is, or alert someone at the range or whatever. But yeah, we've all had those moments where you think, this is not good. I've got to do something about this. And then other times you just run into people who are strange. There are a lot of people at the gun range that sort of want to, what should I say? They worry a lot about other people's technique and the guns they're using, that sort of thing. So you'll see a stranger approach another total stranger and say, hey fella, have you ever tried holding the gun like this? I shoot it all thud-tacular like this. I think you should be trying that. You see a lot of that. But anyway, two stories that come to mind. One of them is more dangerous and serves as a lesson, I think. I saw somebody doing something that was really off-putting. And then another is just kind of funny. But the first story, so I'm at the gun club. I'm shooting my Glock or something. It's just having a fun afternoon. It's enjoyable, having a great time. And I feel something hit me. And I didn't know if it was like brass had bounced off of something and hit me. I didn't know, but it happened again. And then something hit the lady that I was with, and we looked to the side and realized that a kid was throwing rocks at us from around the side of the berms on the side, the little sort of big soil dividery doodads between the bays, and he was throwing them both over the side and then coming around and hitting us with the rocks and was laughing about it. And thankfully this was for neither one of us. This wasn't our first day, so we were able to, of course, safely unload our guns and go and talk to his parent. But the parent kind of knew this stuff like this might have been happening and just wasn't doing anything about it, and that's dangerous as fuck. And it was really off-putting and really pissed me off. And this kid was about 6 or so, and I am all for taking kids to the range. You absolutely should take them to the range as young as they're able to safely shoot a gun. But the key word there is safely. If your child is not mature enough or emotionally or mentally ready to be around dangerous things that go bang bang, then they does not need to be at the range shooting guns or around guns. So yeah, didn't like that. The second story. So I'm at the range. I'm sighting in one of my ARs, and I was also shooting my 1911 there, which has never really run well. And this guy next to me was giving me some really helpful tips on how I can get my 1911 running, because you know how 1911s are. They have assorted issues, and you're constantly tuning them and tweaking them to try and get them to get through 200 rounds without taking a shit. The more I talked to this guy, I started to realize, he only shoots 1911s. And then I realized, okay, he's saying that he doesn't believe that pistols need to hold more than 8 rounds. I couldn't tell if that was if he wanted that to be the law or what, but I was thinking, this is probably not the sort of gun guy that I'm going to get along with. He is, what we usually refer to as a FUD, I started to realize. But then he saw my rifle and he said, we ought not own those. And I said, well, I disagree with you there, but tell me why. Why you think that way? And he said, because the finest rifle ever, the M1 Garand, is all a man needs to defend his home or to take to the range. All you need is an M1 Garand. And I realized, oh, this guy is like a FUD stereotype. He's gone full on FUD. Just he's gone completely FUD feral. I don't even know what the hell that means. So anyway, that is the ultimate in FUD statements. You don't need that gun. You need an M1 Garand. So yeah, you run into those people at the range. I'm trying to think if there are any other things that were just really odd. I mean, most of the time, most gun range interactions are incredibly cordial and awesome. You meet nice people, you discuss guns with them. A lot of times they'll let you shoot their super cool guns, and they might ask to shoot yours, and it's cool, showing them your gun and how it works and letting them take a crack at it and seeing the big smile on their face when they have a really good time shooting it. So most stories are incredibly positive, but occasionally they aren't. Do you name your guns? No, I don't. But I'll say this. Most guns have kind of a unique personality, especially my ARs, the ones that I've put together myself. They sort of do feel almost like living beings after you've spent a lot of time with a gun. My Beretta in particular, it really has a personality all its own. I know that makes me sound like an insane person, but really it sort of has become a good friend and does feel like it's almost sentient. How did you get into guns, and what was the first gun you fired? I know this may sound odd, but I don't remember how I got into guns. They had just sort of always been around where I lived. I'm from the upstate South Carolina, and guns are just common. Everybody has them. They were just kind of a part of life. I did not live in a super gun-friendly household, though, although we had them. They just weren't ever fired or talked about. So the first gun I ever fired, though, was not one of the ones that we had at home, but it was a Glock Model 21 in 45, and I really enjoyed it, and that kind of gave me a love of Glocks and 45. Glocks are not my favorite gun ever, nor is 45 my favorite caliber, but both are just really, really fun to shoot. And then after that, I had a 22 rifle and a 38 revolver, both of which I still have. I don't really get rid of a lot of guns and family heirloom stuff like that. It's you got to hang on to that and shoot it and enjoy it. Is it bad? Is it bad that I can feel my wisdom teeth protruding from my gums is starting to hurt? Yes, that is bad, and Gloop, you should get them cut out. I had mine cut out, and while it sucks the proverbial bag, the great proverbial ball sack, you need to have it done. You'll feel a lot better. What product do you use in your hair? I've answered this jokingly before, but it gets asked literally every time, so I am actually gonna tell you for real this time, as embarrassing as that is. It's some sort of gel-ish product made by a company called Kuhn, and I also use their shampoo. Oh God, I cannot believe that I just answered that question. Do you grab your Glock when you see Tupac? I would rather grab my Glock with Tupac. May he rest in peace. I was a big fan and still am. I love Tupac. When you see a gun portrayed unrealistically in a film or game, do you feel the need to point it out or do you let it slide? It entirely depends on the circumstances. Most of the time, I'm a film school dropout, so most of the time I don't give a shit. I don't care. Movies are movies. They're entertainment. The guns are ancillary to the storytelling, so I really don't give a rat's ass. But there are exceptions. If a movie has made realistic gun handling a priority, like John Wick, for instance. If there's some sort of gaffe in like a John Wick movie, yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed that. I mean, that does stick out to me, or in a war movie or something like that. That does stick out. Here's one that comes to mind. In John Wick 3, when there's the shootout in the Continental, John Wick has access to all of the guns in this room. and he chooses a 9mm SIG MPX, one of the Terran tactical ones, and I think it's one of the Terran tactical ones. Anyway, but I didn't understand that choice. He's fighting these guys with body armor on, and there are all these 5.56 and 308 guns at his disposal, and he chooses a 9mm pistol caliber carbine. And it's got a really long barrel too. I didn't understand that. It seemed like it was mostly chosen just because it looks cool. And in a movie that does have, I'm not saying that the John Wick fights are realistic, but good gun handling is a priority in those films. So I think that it would have made more sense for them to choose something else. So that stuck out to me. But in just about anything else, I don't care. It's like, I don't know, Die Hard or something. Come on. It doesn't matter. But if it bothers you, I understand why. And I think there's probably a pretty good case to be made that how little we care about realistic weapon handling in movies is probably one of the reasons that certain segments of the population, namely Hollywood folks, that they have so little understanding of guns because we don't expect them to. We don't hold them to any kind of standard there. But what are your thoughts on Stephen Williford, the armed citizen who engaged the active shooter in the Sutherland Springs shooting? Anytime a civilian stops a mass shooting, that's a good thing. Somebody was there and armed and prepared, and that person was able to save lives. That's awesome. I mean, I hope none of us ever have to stop a mass shooting. I hope mass shootings stop today and there's never another one for the whole of human history. But that's unlikely. And when folks see someone stand up and protect other people, maybe it'll encourage them to do the same thing. So I applaud anybody that in a really dangerous situation puts their own life at risk to save other people. That's a beautiful thing. And we should all aspire to do that sort of thing. Now, I don't know anything about Stephen Williford personally. I'm not saying, that I know anything about his character or anything like that. But he did a good thing. What else can I say? He did a good thing. What's on your short list for future gun acquisitions? A lot of rifles. I'm kind of all 9mm pistoled out. Some of y'all have asked me about things like the IWI Masada and stuff like that. I'm interested in having more 9mm pistols. I mean, and I'm sure I will have more. But I really want to get some more interesting rifles. So I've got a lot of ARs. Don't need any more ARs, but I'm interested in a Tavor, either the regular Tavor or an X95. I'd happily purchase either one of those. I'm interested in the IWI Galil Ace. I guess it's just all IWI shit today. The CZ Bren, despite my troubles with CZ, I'd love to have a Bren, but I'm really jonesing for a Beretta ARX. I really want an FDE Beretta ARX. I would love to have one, and I'm on the lookout for one right now. I really want one, but it's just got to be the right price and all that stuff, because they've kind of crept back up, and I don't want to pay the going rate for one. But one will turn up at the right time. Do you have a dry fire practice regimen? Yeah, but not in the sense that I have a sort of pre-planned actual regimen where, I do 30 dry fires of this type in this situation to hone this skill. It's not like that. It's more that guns are really interesting to me. I'm always just trying to sort of get better with my trigger control whenever I get a new gun. So whatever I'm taking to the range a lot, I'll spend a lot of time every day honing my trigger control to see if I can just eke out a little bit more and more performance. You guys know how it is. It's just you kind of get obsessed with one thing, whether it's shooting tighter double taps or whatever, and you sit at home and kind of drill those things to get that down, or do holster drills, but The only thing I will say is I do probably spend more time on that than most people. I'm probably doing that for 30 minutes to an hour a day. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm usually watching TV or a movie or something while I do it. So it's really just kind of worked into my day. Do you have a preference for hammer versus striker fired guns? No, I really don't. I know that's kind of unusual, but I don't find that I really shoot either type that differently. If it seems to be more on a gun by gun basis how well I do with it. So, for instance, two of my favorite guns, one's striker fired and one's hammer fired. The Glock Model 45 is striker fired, and my Beretta 92A1 is hammer fired. And I don't really shoot the two much differently. And I think that comes down to I'm spending about equal time with each sort of gun, and I'm spending an equal amount of time dry firing each sort of gun every day to try and stay on top of things. There was a time when I shot striker fired guns better, and then there was a time after that when I shot hammer fired guns better, but that had to do with what I was shooting more of at that given point in time. Right now it's dead even. But I will say this, I think that for most people, striker fired guns are the right option. Now, if you're a shooting enthusiast, you love guns and you're going to the range all the time, yeah, buy a hammer fired gun. You're gonna get a lot out of that. You're gonna enjoy yourself. And hammer fired guns oftentimes do have triggers that are more pleasurable to use. But if you're going to the range, 6 times a year and you're only going to have one gun, the striker fired gun is probably the right thing for you, having that consistent trigger pull. Trigger pull? Wow, I don't know what a trigger pull is, but I'd like to take a dip in that pool. But the trigger pull, I think the consistent trigger pull for most people is a helpful thing. Is there something that you fear? Oh yeah, hell yeah, I fear all kinds of things. I'm trying to think of what my greatest fear is. Oh, okay. All right, all right. Well, we'll go with something deep and something kind of funny, like we did with the range discussion. Something kind of maybe deep, I guess. I do fear failure. A lot. I spend a lot of time making sure that when I do something new, I don't fail at it, and I hopefully, although I still usually do, but I really do try and do anything that I do. I try and do it well, and I have a deep-seated fear of not doing something well, especially as it relates to my career or hell, even this YouTube shit. So that leads me to spend a lot of time and energy trying to work around that fear of failure and putting in a kind of an obsessive amount of time. I'm not one of those people who does many different things. I have kind of 3 things that I focus on, and all of my time and energy goes into those 3 things. That's just how I am. Kind of funny fear. Despite the fact that I love the ocean, I love fishing, I love being on boats, all that stuff, I have a fear of the open ocean. I'm not bothered by being in a boat on the open ocean at all, but the idea of falling into the water is quite scary. I think we can all agree that's pretty scary. Too many people I care about have bought shitty handguns like Tauruses. Tauri? Wow, that one's tricky. Because they don't know any better. How can I motivate them to get a better gun without coming off like a dick? That's a really good question. I struggle with this myself. I mean, I think I come off like a dick a lot of the time when folks ask me about something that I'm reasonably sure is going to fail, or if there's something else out there that's a better option for the same amount of money. But I think there's a nice way to say everything. There's a nice way to say anything you need to say. I live in the South. We value courtesy. It's very important to us. But at the same time, someone that you love, if they're buying a gun for home defense or to carry, they need to buy something good, and you need to tell them. If somebody is going to buy a Taurus, but they could get, God, I don't know, some a surplus pistol or something that would be more reliable, you need to tell them. A friend of mine was going to buy a really, really lousy gun to carry. I mean, it was something really, really, really lousy. And I told him, hey, you could buy like a Makarov or something instead. This is when Makarovs were really cheap. $200. I said you could get that or a Polish P64, guns that I know from personal experience are going to run really well for the same amount of money. So just God, spend the same amount of money or just $25 or $30 more and get one of these surplus things. Although now with police trade-in Glocks and all these other inexpensive options, there's no reason to buy a shitty gun. So encourage someone gently and kindly to go to a pawn shop and purchase something nice and used, or to purchase a surplus option that you know is going to be good. Not all surplus guns are good. Some of them are shit too. But encourage them to get something that's going to work if they're open to it. And some people just won't be open to it. They just have to have whatever piece of shit gun that's new or whatever. They just got to have it. But you can't do anything about that. But I was thinking about like the CZ-P10C, though I've had a lot of trouble with mine in particular. God, you can get a CZ-P10C for like $360 now. Imagine getting a gun of that quality for $360 or $370 even 5 years ago. That was not on the table. And God, we're living in a great time for guns. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. I like that I say, yeah, that's all I'll say after talking for like 6 or 7 minutes. What the fuck? Do you have any tips for new gun owners? Go to the range. Go to the range a lot and get training. Those are the biggest things. Not everyone can afford training. It's expensive. So if you can just get a friend to show you a thing or two, or watch some YouTube videos or whatever. You need to be practicing. You need to just spend as much time as possible. It's not doing you any good if you just buy it and stick it in a drawer, because from what I've seen, you're not going to hit shit. I've seen people at the range, their first or second trip out, when they've had no instruction whatsoever, literally not able to hit the target that's 10 feet away because they're jerking it so badly. So you need to sort that out, because if the bullet goes somewhere crazy when you're trying to hit something 10 feet away, that has become dangerous in a completely different sort of way. So you need to go get training. Oh, we're getting into the tough ones. Sorry. As I've said before, I've had some throat surgeries, and my voice, when it works, kind of crackles and gets weird, and it's starting to do that a little bit. Do you believe in God? What are your thoughts on spirituality? I don't believe in God. I was raised in a very religious household, and I actually had a Christian education, and I was very active in church for many, many, many years. And the interesting thing about that is most people in that situation who's become non-believers later, they are sort of injured by religion in some way, and they have a falling out with the church, and they are sort of bitter towards religion and to the people involved, and I don't feel that way at all. That's not what happened in my case. In my case, I've known for as long as I've known things that I didn't believe. I don't feel, that emptiness inside that people talk about that's filled by religion. I don't feel that. I feel full and happy and alive, and life is beautiful, and I don't need this other thing in my life to feel like I have a good life that's full of meaning. I live in the moment entirely. I don't care about the afterlife. Whatever happens to me when I die is the next great adventure. And I hope it's awesome, but more than likely we just blink out of existence and that's it. And I want to have done good things here and to have lived a good life. And I don't know if I always do a good job of that, but that's what I'm trying. And I try to make sure that every year that I'm alive is better than the last year. Definitely don't succeed at that one a lot of the time, but So anyway, those are my thoughts on God. Spirituality is a little bit different. Actually, no. Let's talk a little bit more about God. I think that Christianity for a lot of people is a very awesome and important thing. My only issue with it is that I like personal freedom. I value personal freedom above just about anything else. And since Christianity, proselytizing is kind of an inherent part of the religion. That's the only issue that I take with it. Other than that, Christianity can be a beautiful thing, but that proselytizing aspect leads to folks wanting to enact Christian laws, to perhaps make Christianity something of a state religion. That's where I have a problem. So I just want all of you to know, because a lot of the folks that watch these videos are Christians, and I want you to know that I love you. I don't in any way dislike you or your religion, nor do I take any issue with it. I completely 100% support your rights to worship any way you see fit. So I just want you to know that. I think that's important, because there are a lot of bitter, mean, nasty atheists out there, and they disgust me. I just want you to know that. But I'm also equally disgusted when I hear from Christians who want to push their religion on me. Although almost none of you have done that. I got on one of my last videos, I got a lovely message from a fella under the video, just saying, hey, if you ever given this a go. And I responded to him, and I hope I was nice, but I really appreciated that. It was nice. Y'all are really nice people, and I appreciate it. But I think that something else that kind of differentiates me maybe from other atheists is I have a background studying religion, on the one hand, from having had a Christian education. So I've written and thought an awful lot about the Judeo-Christian religions in particular, but specifically Christianity. And then once I got to college, I have a good chunk of an undergrad religion degree, because I was taking a lot of these classes on just for my own enjoyment. I love religion. I love studying religion. I love philosophy. So yeah, that's kind of the view that I take, is that all religions are absolutely beautiful and are worthy of study and consideration. God, I'm just going on forever. What are your thoughts on spirituality? Some folks will say things like, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. I don't really understand that, and I'm not saying that mockingly. Like, I'm telling you, I literally do not understand that. I struggle with that concept. I assume that what people are saying is, I have a faith, but I don't believe in organized worship or experiencing it with other people. It's something that I do for myself. And I can understand that. I can definitely understand that concept. But so for me, spirituality, in the same way that I don't worry too much about the afterlife, I don't worry too much about mysticism or anything to do with life's higher mysteries. I think that's something that I've been guilty of not paying enough attention to, because it doesn't interest me that much. But I have spent a lot of time thinking about the classical Hellenistic religions. I really like the way that they worshipped, and how a person would sort of find a patron god or goddess and work to become that ideal. And I do relate to the idea of saying, well, this being or fictional character or entity or whatever is important to me, so I'm going to strive to be more like whatever. So I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and I've been rereading the Odyssey and the Iliad and sort of thinking about what can I do to better myself, to value my own development more, and to maybe find a very clear, concrete a set of values that I'm going to shoot for to try and become this sort of ideal, whatever that may be. I don't know what it'll mean yet for me, but anyway, it's kind of weird, but that's what I've been thinking about lately. Did you ever play sports? Yes, I did. I never sort of played on a team or anything like that, but sports were very important to me. I played a lot of racket sports. I really, really, really like racquetball. Running and weightlifting was very important to me. I still run and I still lift, but not the way that I used to, because I had a serious injury to my left arm that's cost me a lot of function in that arm, and it hurts a lot of the time. But sports are awesome. I love them. I love playing them. I'm not a sports watcher, but I enjoy athletics in general. If you could go to any planet, which one would you go to and why? I would want to visit a planet beyond our solar system, in a different solar system. That would be so awesome. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and the idea of traveling to a different world, whether it's hospitable or not, is an exciting idea. And I would love to see any other planet that's not Earth, but especially a planet outside of our solar system. If you could go to any fictional universe or place, where would you go and why? Well, back to Star Trek. Next generation era Star Trek. I would love to see the Enterprise D and then later the Enterprise E. Although I'd like to see anything in the next generation era Star Trek. I'd love to live there. Wouldn't we all? It'd be so nice to have replicators. Oh yeah, the holodeck, good stuff. Oh, and phasers. Yeah, it'd be fun to shoot some phasers, I would think. What's your favorite fruit or vegetable? I live in the South, so watermelon. I love watermelon. I eat a shitload of watermelon, and I'm going to eat probably a quarter of a watermelon as soon as this video is done, because it is really, really hot, and watermelon is awesome. The watermelon's been in the refrigerator all day, and oh my God, if you know what it's like to get a local watermelon out of your refrigerator, cut that shit up and eat it. It's so fucking good. If you could do one thing that would make the world a better place, what would it be? That's a hard question. I would I would like to make it more socially acceptable for folks on either side of the political spectrum to just have a conversation that's free from yelling and mean-spirited name calling. Just have a real fucking conversation where two people are nice to each other and can have a very basic human interaction that's warm and kind. I think that would change so much about the way our country feels right now. And listen, I do understand how incredibly naive that idea even is. I know that for a lot of people, that's not even possible. But for a much larger chunk of the population than we're led to believe even exists, it is possible. I run into these people all the time. You see them in the comments of videos. I meet them at the range. Folks in general are a lot nicer than the media would lead you to believe, and are a lot more open to people with opposing opinions. But there's still a huge chunk of the population that absolutely isn't open to it. And these people are almost clinically unable to see the world through the eyes of another person. They're entirely unable to grasp that someone might see the world differently and might hold in a different opinion on any topic, regardless of what it might be. And that's really, really dangerous. That shows sort of an extreme arrogance that you would assume that you have somehow, out of all of the millions of available ideological permutations, that you have somehow managed to arrange just the right sequence of beliefs to be correct. That is so astonishingly fucking arrogant. It's amazing. I, for damn sure, don't think that I have it right. And God, I hope I don't. Some dumbass making YouTube videos definitely should not be the one guy that got it right. But you're not either. And you're not that person either. And that's okay. That's why we have to have these conversations. We have to get to know one another's different opinions, and we have to be able to just carry on a very basic conversation. That serves a couple of different purposes. One, it helps you hone your own opinions. It helps you understand who you are, why you believe what you believe, and how you can further refine those opinions. Two, you might find that you need to change one of your opinions. You might find that somebody else does have it more figured out than you do. And you might want to maybe adopt a few of those ideas or change a few of your own ideas to make them a little bit sharper and better refined. And the third thing, it just helps bring down the animosity level. It helps you understand that the other side is made up of real human beings with hopes and fears and dreams just like you, and that you probably want most of the same things for yourself, your families, your country, and maybe you can work together towards accomplishing those things. If nothing else, it'll just give you a little goddamn empathy. All right, the next couple of questions are, they're tough, and they'll probably be longer, so yeah, just strap in. There's 15 more minutes of me fucking yakking. What are your thoughts on parents allowing their kids to be transgender before sexual maturation? Wow, that's really tough. And I'm not sure if I'm qualified to talk about this anyway. I'm a cisgender dude. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can say anything valuable there, because I've never had that experience. I don't know if I can speak about what that would be like. And I think one of the biggest problems we face as a society is that a lot of people who have not had experiences are very willing to speak about them and legislate about them. But the one part here that interests me most is maybe the role that parents play in someone's life, regardless of their circumstance. We've talked a lot as a country about whether even circumcision at birth is a good thing or not. And I think the problem is, when you're a child, you don't have any agency. Even if you think you do, you don't know enough about the world to make big decisions for yourself. That's why traditionally children have not made big decisions for themselves. We rely until probably age 14 or 15, and even past that, really, if we're honest with ourselves, we rely entirely on our parents' expertise and opinions, and mostly our opinions are those of our parents at that age. We don't really begin to individuate until later in life. So, also, I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all solution to this problem. Here's why. My transgender friends have said that a few of them, they knew from a very early age that they were different in some way, but others didn't. And we have to wonder, too, what role is a parent playing in a decision? Because we have no way to tell from the outside. Maybe a doctor can, maybe a doctor can spend enough time with a patient and his, her, or they's parents to sort of know maybe what's going on. But I don't know. I don't know if there is any way to know. And since surgical options are irreversible, it's something that someone has to think long and hard about. And I would think that in general, it would probably be a better idea if folks did wait until after puberty, or just as late in life as possible before making that decision. Only because it's a life-altering decision, and you have to make sure that you're making the right choice for you, and that your parents aren't influencing you, and that society's not influencing you. But it's worth saying, a few of my transgender friends have said, "Oh, I absolutely knew. I knew what I needed to do," and so that makes it a really tough situation, because someone who absolutely knows what they have to do, how can you tell them, no, you can't? But at the same time, we do that with other things societally. We make people wait until they're older to firmly make a decision. So, do we legislate this? God, I don't know. Maybe it's a better idea to just, for medical professionals to just vigorously encourage parents, hey, really have them wait until they're older and have a firmer idea of what the future holds for them. But at the same time, I understand that some young people will know, but others won't. So I don't think one size fits all. And something else that I have to note is that I wholly 100% support a transgender person's right to transition. I completely support personal freedom, and one of our most basic rights is making choices about what to do with our bodies. And I'm not saying either that being transgender is a choice. I don't believe that at all. But I'm saying that whether or not you want to transition is your personal choice, and you should have the right to do that. But we do have to make sure that parents are not influencing a person's decision. I look at my own life. Let's talk about my religious upbringing. I've known for as long as I've known things that I did not believe in God. Yet it was not my choice whether I went to church. And if you had asked, 11-year-old me, hey, are you a Christian? Do you believe in God? I would have said yes, because that's my parents told me to say that. So I would have still, even though secretly I was having this inner turmoil and saying, I don't believe in this thing. That was not the circumstance of my life. So we just have to take all of these factors into account. And God, I can't even imagine how hard it is to be a doctor right now. It's got to be tough because there's so much pressure on all sides. A lot of people, I think, have too readily embraced the idea that we should let children do, whatever they decide to do. Children should be able to make their own decisions, but only to a degree. They can't make decisions to a certain degree because they're children. They don't fucking know how. They don't know how to choose, what peanut butter sandwich they're going to eat for lunch, let alone make a big life decision about a life-altering surgery. So that's all I'll say. Enough of my yakking. What embarrasses you the most? And what has been your most embarrassing moment? Oh, I've had a lot of embarrassing moments. I embarrass my fucking self on an almost daily basis. If you in any way follow anything that I do online, if you're one of the 4 people that do, all of whom have written questions for this Q&A. This comes back to the question about fear earlier. I think I'm most embarrassed when I don't measure up, when I'm not able to do the things that I need to do, when I don't feel like I've tried hard enough, or if I feel like I could have put in a little bit more effort. So I play guitar for a living. If I'm having a studio session and I just don't do a good job, that's embarrassing to me, because it means that I didn't do enough prep work, or I didn't practice enough that week. So that's embarrassing. That probably embarrasses me the most. Most embarrassing moment. There have been a lot of on-stage gaffes and stuff that were pretty embarrassing. So I would definitely say one of those. I don't know if I could pick an individual one, because they're all really embarrassing. One of my bandmates one time. I don't drink. I like to be present all the time. I don't ever drink. I don't understand. Kind of don't understand the drinking thing. If you were into it, that's fine. Don't let me stop you. I'm just saying it's not for me. And I had a bandmate one time who got absolutely just fucking hammered, and the show kind of fell apart. It's funny now, but it was really not funny then. That was very embarrassing. How have cell phones and technology impacted personal relationships? Or what's the impact of phones and social media on the way we interact? Well, in some ways, cell phones and social media have helped us. In other ways, they have harmed us. I think that it has made it so that people can connect with folks in other locations and have very meaningful interactions. I think about y'all, that I talk to all the time. Y'all all live in other places, and we have awesome, amazing conversations, and we forged these super cool friendships that are separated by thousands of miles in some cases. But on a local level, I think people, they don't go out as often with their friends, and they don't see their local friends as often. And people don't go out and build these meaningful relationships that are forged through us doing things together, going out into the world and experiencing interesting things at the same time. And I think that's been detrimental. I think that social media has made it so that we have access to a greater range of opinions and a greater range of information to help us forge those opinions. So I think that's a positive thing. But on the other side, I think it has made people treat each other far worse. So it's been proven that when we're separated by a screen, we're more likely to make decisions and say things that we would not normally say because we don't feel social pressures or fear. On a sort of almost biological level, we don't interpret digital interactions as being real interactions. So some of our social inhibitions are removed as a result. People find it easier to text difficult information or to send it via email than it would be for them to actually say it, even just on the phone or in person. So I think that's very negative. It's made it so that the things that people will say and do to one another digitally are fucking heinous. You see it all the time. Whether you're looking at YouTube comments, whether you're looking at comments on any site, on a news site, if you're just looking at the things people say to each other on Facebook, on Twitter, it's fucking appalling. It's amazingly disgusting. So in that way, I think social media has been very, very harmful. And I think it's made it so that the nature of our social discourse and political discourse has just devolved into the absolute most base name calling. That's very, very negative, and we've got to sort that out. Well, that was a really disgusting sound that my water bottle made, wasn't it? So when we use social media, I think we need to make a concerted effort to say, am I just on a basic fundamental level, am I treating this person like a human? Am I making an attempt to see their side? Am I making an attempt to reason with them? Am I making an attempt to explain myself well? Am I making an attempt to show them just really, really, really basic courtesy? Right now, we're not doing that. And I think that when we do decide that we want to change the way we interact with each other, I think that we'll find that a world of possibility has been opened by the internet. And we have not fully explored the social possibilities yet because we're still in the stage where, we're saying, me hate you, you bad, you believe different, you bad. And this, it's kind of to be expected. There are going to be growing pains, and we're still pretty dumb when it comes to social media. We don't know what the long-term ramifications of communicating this way will be yet. We don't know. It hasn't been enough time. It's kind of like when a new handgun hits the market. It might have passed the trials at the company or whatever, but the problems with it don't become apparent until years later. And it's easy to look back with hindsight and say, of course that was really obvious, but it's never obvious in the moment. But all this boils back down to what we've talked about so many times, that if we're nice to each other, things will improve. So make an effort. I'm not saying that I do a good job of that. I certainly don't. But if we all try, shit will get better. Thank you so much for watching. Oh my God, this is probably the longest one of these that I've ever done, and I'm sorry. But your questions were amazing, so they warranted more complete answers than I don't want to say than before. It makes it sound like you asked terrible questions. You didn't. You guys always ask absolutely amazing questions, but these in particular are really fucking spectacular, and they deserved a considered long answer. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to ask a question, join us over on Patreon, and you're welcome to ask several questions if you want. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.